In 2022, we celebrate 130 years of HBCU football. On December 27th, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the 2022 season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag HBCU130. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
It's the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Thursday, July 28th. I'm Donal Ware and hope you enjoyed our podcast on yesterday. We had a chance to talk with Al Wash, who is, of course, his company promotes the State Fair Classic in Dallas. So I hope you got a lot out of that. On the line, and as you can see, whether you're watching this podcast or listening to it, we have the head football coach of Shaw. Adrian Jones is in his sixth season as the head football coach at Shaw. The Bears have been picked to finish fourth overall in the CIAA, second in the Southern Division, and coming off a pretty good season. On last year, maybe a couple of points away from perhaps playing in the CIAA championship. Anyway, we'll talk about it all with Adrian Jones, the head football coach of Shaw, joining us here on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. What's going on, Coach Jones?
All is well, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Always glad to have you. I can remember it seemed like just yesterday that you were getting introduced as the head football coach at Shaw. And now, look, guys had a really good season. But I got to, in talking about in 2021, I got to start here. Do you feel like, or do your players feel like there's some lack of respect? I mean, it's all about where you finish, right? But in the preseason, you guys have been picked to finish fourth overall after narrowly missing an opportunity to win the Southern Division and play in the CIAA championship game. Do you feel some kind of disrespect by being picked to finish fourth this year?
Oh, absolutely, we do. But like you said, that's preseason polls at the end of the day. But we definitely do feel like we're not respected in some terms. You know, nothing to take away from any coaches or anybody in the CIAA, because all the teams are very good teams. But if you look at the teams in the matchups, the one thing that kind of baffled us is that Virginia Union was picked to be in front of us, and last year we beat them very convincingly. Like I said, nothing against Coach. He's a great coach, but we beat them convincingly, and we got the same football team that we had last year, and that was kind of baffling. But today is preseason. That's just going to make us work even harder and gain that respect that we deserve.
Take me through last year. I know. I mean, I get it. That was tough. That was a tough loss at the end of the season, but I mean, it was a very tough loss to Fayetteville State. I think, was it 14-12, something like that. It's like 2 points. It's a nasty game, rainy, the field was muddy. But sort of, just kind of sum up last season. While it wasn't where you wanted to be, it was certainly one of the better seasons you had in your tenure.
Yeah, well, we came out kind of flat at the beginning of the year. We lost to Wingate, then came back the second game and played Davidson, who actually played in the Division I AA playoffs and was ranked, and we gave them a run for their money. Lost by extra point. Had we got the extra point, we go into overtime. But we learned something from that game. Christian Peters was our starting quarterback that game, and he ended up starting like the last 4 or 5 games. Got to Fayetteville State and hit that, what I call that freshman wall. A freshman, running the team, and you're going against a powerhouse like Fayetteville State. And he just got a little rattled, and we had to bench him after that. So, not only did the coaches learn some things, but the football players learn some things. And we've been talking about it. The aspect of our team, the difference is that we are probably the strongest football team in our conference, one of the most talented football teams in our conference, but our mentals were not there. I think the difference in us being 8-2 and 6-4 was the mental side of our football team. And that's one of the things that we worked on this year was that mental side. Because as you know, all the games that we lost were within two, but the biggest deficit was 4 points. And all the other losses, one was 3 and one was 2 points. So that's a lot of mental. You got to learn how to win those close games. And, we all know that we lost to Fayetteville State, and it was some questionable calls in the game. But like I tell my kids, like, we can't let the referees dictate our success. We got to beat a team convincingly. And I think those are the things that we have worked on. But it's no doubt in my mind that we got a great football team. It's probably the most dominating, I say we got so many toys all across the board that I am excited about. Yes, we got to put it on the field, but I'm really confident that we're going to be a challenge to be reckoned with.
Last thought about last year in terms of overall, it's got to be tough when you lose to your rival, as you did to St. Aug's that last game of the season, but it's got to be tough also to take that game into the off season. How did you, as a staff, as players, get over that hump and be able to get ready for this upcoming season?
Well, what's ironic is I knew that we were going to go into a dogfight against them, regardless of the record. It's a rival, and I don't think my kids took it seriously until we got down and we had to fight back and claw back and try to win a football game. But at the end of the day, it didn't happen. They have the trophy over there, which we've had for a while, and like my players and my coach has been talking about, we're only as good as our last game. In our last game, we lost to St. Aug game. We got a chip on our shoulder. We want to prove to people that Charlotte football is not a fluke. Yes, we didn't play like we supposed to, but we're going to respect each and every football team that we step on the field. And we're going to make sure if we lose a football game, you best believe it's because that team came out and they played hard. It's not going to be we laying down. We're going to come out and they're going to have to smack us in the face in order to beat us.
Adrian Jones is in his 6th season as the head football coach at Shaw. Joins us here on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. I mean, you've got a lot of players coming back, as you mentioned. You hit the recruiting trail, which we'll talk more about your recruiting. Sidney Gibbs comes back, all conference, all CIAA running backs, really progressed in your program. How much more are you expecting from him for this upcoming season?
I mean, he's our guy. He's been a back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher. We know that everybody in the CI and out of the conference knows who he is, and he puts a lot on his shoulders. I mean, what's ironic today is we had our bench press today, and he bench pressed 360 pounds. You're talking about a running back that can put up weight like that, and the dynamics that he gives you. He's a blocker, he's a runner, he can catch out the backfield. And not only that, our offensive line has gotten so much better. We got all our returning offensive linemen from last year. So nothing but sky's the limit for him. And hats off to Andre Brandon, who's the guy right behind him who had like the second most touchdowns in our conference. So a lot of people don't know about him. They're concentrating on Sidney Gibbs, but he's going to be that guy that makes Sidney Gibbs even better, because sometimes they're going to stack the box and think that we're going to run with Sidney Gibbs, and then you got another guy like Andre Brandon that can tote the rock as well.
Gibbs, Brandon, the whole offensive line comes back. That means whoever your starting quarterback is, he's going to have some protection. Maybe a little bit of the relief is taken off of him because you've established a great running game and an offensive line. Who will be your starting quarterback come week 1 of the season?
Well, right now we have a 3-man battle. We have Christian Peters, who had a great year last year, was on the all-rookie team. You got Torian Campbell, who at the last 4 or 5 games came in and helped us out win a couple games. And then we got a young man by the name of Patrick Blake, who's from Savannah, Georgia, that did a great job in the spring. So what I did was open it up for to battle, and at the end of the battle in the spring, it pretty much was a 3-way tie. So we're going to take this into the fall and whoever wins that battle is going to be our trigger man. But right now, no one's a starter. But I look for Christian Peters to step it up better. He's been a vocal leader in the weight room, and not to say the other guys haven't, but he's one of the guys that really been working hard, and I know he wants that position as well as the other guys.
I mean, it's got to feel good too. It's not like, you've got some veteran guys. You got some guys that played, that understand the system, that played for you in some tough games last year. That's got to be a plus going into and then coming out of the spring, and then of course going into summer camp and ultimately into the season.
Right. I mean, we're battle. They're battle tested, and like I said, I mean, you don't see too many college football teams that got three dynamic quarterbacks, and it's not just the quarterback room. I mean, we got toys all across the board, and we did a great job of recruiting and putting this team together. And it's just something that I'm excited about. You talked about 6 years being here. This year, by far, so far, and we haven't started the season, has been one of my funnest years. Just being a head coach and looking back at my assistants grow and just show leadership is awesome.
What's that wide receiver? Talk about that wide receiver room and who are some of the key guys there.
Man, you got guys like a Sean Belcher. You got RZ McCorkle, who just came here as a JUCO transfer, probably one of the fastest kids in the conference. You got Elliott Dangerfield, who came in and showed some light last year. You got John Barnes, who is our fastest receiver on the football team, had a couple touchdowns last year, but had an excellent spring. And it's a whole lot of other guys that I know I'm missing. But in that room, we have counted about 8 to 9 guys that are going to get playing time. And that's big when you got guys like that. So if a guy doesn't come to play out of those starting 4, just know you got 4 or 5 guys that can replace them and do what we ask them to do.
Adrian Jones is the head football coach at Shaw, joins us here on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. He's in his 6th season. Who are you expecting? I mean, you've just got a lot of players on both sides of the football coming back. So who are you expecting to step up for you defensively?
Defensively, we got Arkeithio Carson, who was an all rookie. We got Jaleel Stroggins, who's coming back. No, a lot of people don't know that he tore his Achilles last year and got that medical red shirt. He'll be back in full swing. He was actually not 100% in 2021, but he's worked. He's lost weight. He's looking excellent. Ready for him to rock and roll. We got a young man by the name of Bear on the D line. We got a couple of linebackers that are fairly fast. You have Kareem Butler, who was on the all-rookie team as well, and he had an excellent year playing beside Devin Hunt. I'm really excited about looking at him and seeing what he could do this year. So secondary-wise, we did lose Kevin Sherman, but we brought a slew of freshmen in and some transfers that are going to be battling. And I think that we're going to be battle-tested. And I think that even though we lost some key guys on the defense, we're definitely going to be just as good as we were last year defensively.
You talked about recruiting early on. You're a former high school coach in the state of North Carolina. As a matter of fact, a state championship high school coach. Can you speak to how having been a high school coach really helps you in terms of recruiting at Shaw?
It benefits a lot because, a lot of those guys are still my friends. Once I took the job at Shaw, it was a lot of congratulations. But just being able to go in that office and talk to them, and they know who I am. They know that I care about the kids. Shaw, we don't have a lot of bells and whistles, but where we win a lot of our kids is when I go in that room, that coach knows that I care about that kid. That coach knows that kid is going to be a student athlete. That coach knows that he's going to get a degree, and play a good brand of football. So, I think that's an advantage to us. Not only that, but, what better place to be in right downtown Raleigh, where it's what I call a college town.
Yeah, no doubt. So I know you guys have obviously have circled September 3rd on your calendar. It's the first game of the season against Wingate, but of course it's one of those games where you're like, hey, we had an opportunity to win it last year, didn't get it done, and you guys are looking forward not only to the game because it's the first game, but to Wingate, trying to, if you will, avenge that loss.
Yeah, they beat us kind of convincingly. We thought that we could come in and compete, but it's not making an excuse, but they played in the spring and we didn't. Pandemic, we were out of football for 365 days. So it took us a while to get rocking and rolling, but we know what type of team Wingate is, but they best believe that they know who we are, and we're gonna be ready for them. They're gonna have to fight us to win a football game. It's gonna be no easy wins for anybody that step on the field against the Shaw Bears this year.
Last couple of thoughts, and we appreciate the time. I mean, I know you take it game by game. You don't necessarily look ahead, but I mean, if I look at the schedule in totality, you got 3 straight road games at Virginia State on October 1st, at Johnson C. Smith on the 8th, and then at Winston-Salem State on the 15th. And of course, 2 of those games are Southern Division games. Sort of speak to that and how you may approach that being on the road for 3 straight weeks.
Well, if anybody knows about us, like what's funny is that we played a lot of our road games since I've been here. We're what we call road warriors. We don't mind going on the road. It's good to be on the road to get away from, your atmosphere, stay in a hotel room where you can keep your guys together and get focused. But, you got a brand new coach at Johnson C. Smith, great football coach. He was at Fayetteville State and, and he did well there. So we expect Johnson C. Smith to be a lot better than what they were. Virginia State, they got a new head coach as well. Our offensive coordinator, Lamar Manigo, decided to take a job there at Virginia State with his old coach where he played at Bowie State. Hats off to him, a great football coach. Nothing better for us to go to Virginia State and beat those guys. But they're going to be ready. I know what type of offense they're going to have. I know Coach Manigo going to have them ready. And then, Winston-Salem State, we've beaten them the last 3 years in a row. I know Coach Massey very well, and I know he got that game circled because right now we have beat them, so he's going to have them rocking and rolling and ready to play when we step in that stadium. So, like I said, we can't take anybody lightly because, we have made a name for ourselves. We're not the best team in the conference, but people know that we got a good football team and they're going to have to play.
Last thought, how in 6 years as the head coach there at Shaw are you growing as a head coach?
Man, you say 6 years. And what's funny about those 6 years, if you look at the coaching tree in the CIAA, me and Coach Hayes are the OGs of this conference. Now, we got new coaches in here, but man, I've learned so much. I can tell you that, when I first got this job, I can say I was that firehead. I was in my kids hard, being very hard on them. I think I'm more laid back, and I kind of play that good cop, bad cop. If my assistant's on the guy, I'm going to step in and change it up. And I'm just being that way because you got to be very observant when you're running. It's not the coaching that I had when I was playing. These kids are different, and you have to really get to know those guys. So I think I'm more of a player's coach now. It's taken a while, but I try to be a little bit more calmer and cooler. And I say a confident coach breeds confident players. I want to build that confidence, show them how confident I am, and I want it to rub off on those guys.
Shaw opens the season on September 3rd at home against Wingate, again in his 6th season as the head football coach of Shaw is Adrian Jones, who joins us here on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. Coach Jones, as always, appreciate the time. Man, sorry we couldn't do this in person this year as we normally would have. We'll do it again, of course, next year here in Raleigh. Best of luck to you and the Bears for the upcoming season.
Thank you, Donnell, man, for having me on. And one thing I want to say to the fans that know about Shaw University, we're our home games at the Durham County Stadium this year. So I would love for you guys to come and pack that stadium and root on our football team. And I promise you that you're gonna get a treat this year.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at BOXTOROW.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on BOXTOROW with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BOXTOROW for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.